based on the divine statements from the verses such as Surat Al-Ma'idah, verse 6, and Surat Al-Hajj, verse 78. Islam is meant to be very simple, minimal, complication-free, easy to follow, free from any hardships. However, the expert jurisprudence made it complex and difficult, creating the big fiqh.
I find this claim as a youth worthy of Quranic reflection and study. Based on my research, even if our religion was intended in its early foundational phase to be straightforward and easily accessible to all, including those without scholarly training, the complexity observed today is not a deviation from its original simplicity. It might be due to the complexity of jurisprudential interpretations, perhaps due to the rising historical complexity in the socio-political, economic, and legal challenges facing the believers today, which require depth and adaptability in religious rulings. So, expert Islamic scholars use Ijtihad, the intellectual, holistic, methodological process of applying general principles to contemporary circumstances, ensuring that Islamic law remains accessible, relevant, and applicable across diverse contexts while retaining its foundational principles and appropriate depth. So, those who call themselves reformists and claim that deen has to be simple, such a person would have to be better appreciated by indicating his awareness of the depth and expertise in the holistic intellectual methodology that qualified a mujtahid's exercise to derive the laws from the Quran and Hadeeth, as observed throughout Islamic history. If we study the Quran, we realize that some religious obligations are, by nature, associated with difficulty and hardship, such as the obligation of the difficult process of hijrah, or migrating to a place where one can practice one's faith safely, and the obligation of jihad, which is to strive on the path of God. The following verses of the Quran obligate such hardships and offer rewards for bearing them, as in the following verse, Surah An-Nahl, verses 41 and 110, Surah Al-Imran, verse 195, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 120. Beyond that, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 155, indicates that God will surely put us on trial and test through fear, hunger, and a loss of wealth, lives, and fruits. Many verses illustrate the physical and mental challenges involved, contrary to the theme of easiness in religion, obligate sacrificing wealth and soul, which could even lead to death, which is against the principle of easiness of religion. Not just that, in some cases, it condemns and warns those who fall behind, providing false excuses, as noted in Surah At-Tawbah, verse 81, which rebukes those who prefer to stay behind and not participate in hard, strenuous struggles to defend the divine cause. Further, the words in Surah At-Tawbah, verse 120, condemn those who avoid fulfilling such difficult responsibilities and offer rewards for the strenuous struggles, sacrifices, thirst, fatigue, and hunger. Similarly, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 117, praises those who join the messenger during hours of hardship. Reflecting in Surah Al-Imran, verse 97, which obligates the pilgrimage to Mecca only upon someone capable financially and physically, because it's usually associated with great hardship for many. A third example of the rules associated with hardship is the complex rules of the monthly period for a woman, due to its biological complexity and variances, despite being a widespread natural phenomena. There are only 2 verses in the Quran about it. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 222, and Surah Al-Talaq, verse 4. These verses describe it as a painful inconvenience without detailed rules regarding the purification of various types of blood discharge due to the variances in different women. Not knowing the details of such responsibility creates serious difficulty and hardship for an unaware Muslim woman who wants to know her responsibility. The detailed rules about such issues encountering women are derived from the massive number of hadith found in the second volume of Wasa'il al-Shia from pages 271 to 396, which is 125 pages, precisely from hadith number 2127 to 2450. That is 322 hadith. In addition, those narrations continue in the second volume of the Annex or the Mustadrak of Wasa'il al-Shia from pages 5 to 50, a total of 45 pages, precisely from hadith number 1246 to 1376, a total of 130 hadith. Such complexity developed by fewer verses of the Quran and a large amount of hadith related to such conditions facing women, besides it being naturally complex, requires the clear guidance of a great mujtahid scholar who is highly experienced and knowledgeable, aware of the detailed depth process of Ijtihad. Therefore, the total number of hadith related to the rules of the types of women's blood is 452 hadith, a content for which a layperson, let alone an average knowledgeable scholar, would not be able to grasp the authenticity, depth, and integrated, holistic meanings of such narration. Such a vast amount of narrations require a pious jurisprudent who is highly expert in interpreting the Quran and Hadith, using a holistic intellectual methodology, simplifies the content of such a massive amount of Hadith text in about 20 pages, as in Minhaj al-Salihin of His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid al-Sistani. The Quran indicates that religion is meant to be easy to implement and free from hardship. However, it also mentions that certain obligations are designed by God to be associated with hardship, perhaps as a challenging test. Nevertheless, if they are unbearable in some instances, the Quran exempts a human from such obligations and, in some cases, prescribes an alternative mode for the same unbearable obligation. These 3 concepts can be observed in the verses of the Quran and Hadith. God tests the humans in this world, as in verses Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 2, and Surah Al-Mulk, verse 2, which serves the whole purpose of life for human beings on earth. If everything was easy, then where is the test of God? Hence, God tests us with a few complex rules associated with hardship to distinguish the righteous from the disobedient. The following verses indicate that even the difficult religious responsibilities are within human capacity limit. The verses Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 233 about childcare, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 286 for all divine laws, Surah Al-Araf, verse 42, list of good deeds isn't difficult to obey, Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse 62, to hasten competitively in performing good acts isn't difficult beyond human capacity. In some difficult obligations, God provides alternative responsibilities to reduce the hardships, as in the verses of Tayammum instead of wudu in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 6, and the exemptions in fasting, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 185. Moreover, Even if the rules seem complex and challenging, adaptation can make them easily performable, like a cardiothoracic or a neurosurgeon who could initially face severe difficulty performing the most complicated surgery. Such hardship is eliminated once adapted to it by repeatedly performing it. Therefore, the detailed rules of the monthly period, hijab, controlling sexual lust, and other rules seem to be complex and challenging. However, they are within the capacity of average humans. In addition, they become easy to implement by adaptation.